Hey, man, I just want to thank you for being here. My name is Arroe, and this is Podfest, episode number 21. 3 back-to-back conversations with real people we know, either through entertainment, politics, science, medical, or by just helping us out as we get our lives back in order. They're played back-to-back. I've learned that podcast listening isn't always about a 4-minute song. The lyrics we share in this everyday world make being a part of this new age of content incredibly special, and these guests will always bring their game. Podfest 21 features my 2019 conversation with Joe Zolper from Garage Squad on the Motor Trend Network. Then we'll jump into a moment with Joe Fatone of NSYNC, as well as the host of the game show Common Knowledge. Then we'll wrap things up with John Hanna from NBC's Transplant. This is Podfest.
How you doing, Arroe?
Fantastic, man. Here you go again with Garage Squad. I mean, you guys are the people that believe in the resurrection of those things that we love so much, cars and trucks.
Amen to that. Absolutely.
For you to get in it at such an early age, I mean, you're like Eric Clapton when he picked up the guitar. You knew exactly where you were going to go and what you needed to do in order to grow into a success story.
Yes, when I was a kid running around with screwdrivers and pliers and wrenches at the age of, 4, 5, 6 years old, and I was tearing apart my Christmas toys to want to figure out how they work. True story.
We're talking about Garage Squad. Motor Trend, man, continues to be leaders when it comes to car lovers and those that love to rebuild it. I love the connection that you guys continue to have with viewers.
Yes, we try to build vehicles and to do stuff on the show that interests everybody. And, of course, some of these stories are, pretty heartfelt too. And they touch me. And sometimes on set, it gets very hard sometimes, but very emotional sometimes.
I'm glad you brought that up because when you bring a car back to life, I mean, that involves a lot of human emotion. I mean, I'm still attached to my 1977 AMX. I'm never going to get it again, but I still love that car.
I think, cars are, attached to a lot of people in many ways. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think when you turn 16, you get your license and you get that first car, I think that's where, the sense of freedom starts. And I think that's where memories start right there that are attached to your vehicle. And I think that's why, in America, we're so close to our cars.
You worked on a 1949 Mercury. Now, 1949, that was real metal on those cars, and those engines were monsters. How do you bring something like this back into the world?
First thing we got to do is assess the vehicle. What does it need? What's the important things that need to be addressed? Because we don't have a lot of time on the show to get this stuff done, but we want to make sure it's safe and runs good and they got a nice finished product. So the first thing we got to worry about is parts. I mean, finding all the parts. And once we get all the parts, then we know we have something that we can finish to make this guy happy again. Does
that scare you a little bit about the future? Because when you talk about parts and stuff, I mean, when we went through the recession of 2008, a lot of car companies went out of business. In 10 or 15 years, you might be going back to rebuild one of those cars. Will there be parts for you?
I think there's going to be. I think, the American muscle is so strong in the United States. I don't see it going anywhere quite yet. I think we have plenty of time. I think what's going to determine is the next generation. I think that's the generation that's going to determine what's going to happen to the American values on their vehicles.
The show we're talking about is Garage Squad. Has there ever been a transformation that almost beat you?
Yes. Season 1, 1979 Trans Am, the black one, I literally thought I didn't think we were going to get it done. But we did. We got it done. And that one was the one that kept me up at night, almost every night.
I know you work really close with people, with car collectors and stuff like that, but do you ever create an emotional attachment to the car to where you're going, no, I don't want to give this car back yet. I know we're supposed to be making money and it's a TV show, but I love this car.
All the time.
Oh, no.
I mean, I could not tell you how many times I've asked people and said, can I just borrow it for the weekend? I just, and I just, let me have it for a week, and test drive it for you, I mean, some of these cars, yes, we work so hard on them and we put so much heart and soul into them ourselves that, yeah, I mean, it's hard to walk away from them, but we know they're enjoying them and we know they're in good hands.
I know a lot of people love the Mustangs, they love the Corvettes and things like this, but for a lot of us, we grew up training in little Datsuns. Is there a Datsun you would ever put back together?
Yeah, 240Z,
yes.
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, we did one season 1, and I loved that car. That car was awesome. I am into American muscle, big cubic inch, and big horsepower, but I would say that car was just so fun to drive.
Are you going to put a book together? Because, I mean, or even do a podcast, because you have so many stories about going through your head at all times and the experiences. How do you reach beyond the television show to keep connected to those fans?
You know, a lot of it's on social media is what I do. I do little videos. I got In the Garage on YouTube. I do little skits here and there. But as far as the book, you know, my mother has told me multiple times, Joey, you need to write a book. So I tell my daughter, because she's a bookworm, and I tell her, I'm like, listen, you're going to write a book about Dad and all the crazy things that's happened to him and that he's done, and you're going to be a millionaire. I tell her this. I just told her this a week ago, and she knows it. Because she's 12, and she'll tell you some of the crazy things that's happened in my life.
You know, here in the Carolinas, that you have to drive pretty far to go see a big old junkyard. But, man, what is it about junkyards that really ignite a boy or a man's imagination?
Exactly what you just said, imagination. I mean, you walk in, and, you know, a lot of people see rusty junk. And people with good imagination, they see potential.
Yes.
They you know, I can look at a vehicle that is, you know, quarter panels are rotted out on it, it's missing wheels and windows and doors, but yet I can visualize that thing driving down the road. And if you have that imagination, especially for the younger generation, you can't believe the things that you can do with that imagination. You just got to get down and dirty and try to make it happen.
Well, vicariously, we are teaching tomorrow's generation how to love their cars and how to take care of them. And it's vicariously through you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And I am all about teaching the next generation everything we can about the lost art of some of these old muscle cars and street rods.
Yep. Garage Squad. Please come back to this show anytime in the future, Joe. The door's always going to be open for you, dude.
I would love to. Thank you very much. And, you know, if you want, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Joe Zolper, and also on YouTube. So we'll see you next time.
You bet. Be brilliant today. Joey, what are you doing, man? Common knowledge is that you are doing a damn good job on television, dude.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm trying. So far, people have told me I haven't sucked yet, so that's a good thing.
And you know what? You of all people would have the best answer if they did say that. You'd come out with because you just seem to be that type of guy that has a reaction that's always going to be somewhat positive.
Of course, you know what? I just always have a positive outlook on life. I mean, again, life's too short. I know many people have suffered by different anxieties and different things like that, which, you know, I can never understand. And I hope people really kind of find the light on certain things. And I've been fortunate and lucky enough that, you know, as far as the way I was raised and how my parents, approach things, gave me a good insight on what I would do or how I become as a parent, as a father, as a spouse at times, or just in general for that matter. So, you know, I've been very, very blessed and very fortunate. Definitely. I don't miss a beat on that one. I know where I came from, and I know that it is a blessing, and it's a lot of hard work to get to where I am as well, though. So it's a little combination of both.
On Common Knowledge, do you get to prepare those questions and to really kind of get involved in that part of it, or do you have to be so far away from that because of the rules of television when it comes to gaming?
But yeah, I would say, I mean, I've been so far away from it, and that would be a pain in the ass for me, pardon my French, because I would have to go and do the research on all the questions. That's what somebody does. Someone actually does the research on all these questions to make sure that they're 100% accurate. It's not fake. It's proved out. But for me, it's more or less of definitely focusing on the gameplay, the contestants, and the questions. Because basically I'm doing 6 shows a day we shoot. I'm reading, I have no idea, 30 to 40 questions, an episode, I guess, or whatever, which is ridiculous. And you just kind of get that cadence to it. You know, for me, I wish I knew that much common knowledge, but a lot of times when I read that question and the minute that question is gone, it is gone out of my head. It has moved on to the next thing.
So, Joey, just for the common knowledge for the fans, we got to know, what's your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur?
Absolutely, yeah, your favorite dinosaur.
I like a T-Rex.
There you go.
I'm very fond of a T-Rex. Except he's got little arms. You can't do much with his little arms. That's the problem. You can't pick anything up.
You know, one of the things that's fascinating about watching you on Common Knowledge is the fact that you handle real people really well. And is that just something that just came up with your family in the because they were always so down to earth?
Yeah, it was always just kind of be true to yourself in a sense. Don't pretend like you're somebody who you're not. I mean, and if I have done that, you know it, meaning it's deliberate, it's on purpose. But I think it's just because of practice and repetition in the sense of kind of being able to adapt to talking to someone, whether they're a funny person, a quiet person, a shy person, a pissed off person, or just not having a good day person, and you try to find the common ground, or you try to find the conversation that's going to make that a positive. And I think it was really funny. It was a good test and a good practice of what I had to deal with sometimes with people, but it was more extreme, where I actually was hosting it was a Price is Right live show in Vegas. It was during the day. It was around 3 or 4 o'clock. This is when I was like doing little hosting gigs here and there. Again, not many people hear about these things, but I was hosting this live version. People actually thought they were on the freaking show. No, they were not. There was no cameras. Bob Barker wasn't there. Drew Carey wasn't there. It was me. But regardless, the funny part about it is everybody would go to check in around 2 o'clock or 1:30, really early before they even open up the doors, because obviously they had to go through a screening. People had to honestly get, like, as far as picked to come up on stage, because literally the audience was the people that were coming up to get down there to do the whole showcase, everything. So when they pick those people, they have to go through a process, and they have like about good 2 hours in the middle of it. Mind you, this is in a casino. So you bring these people out, they go back out into the casino. A few of them, either they win big, they lose, they drink heavily. Now these people are completely different from what they were before when they came into the show. So now they're hammered and their demeanor is completely different. And you have to learn, for me, I had to learn how not to be a jerk, but also stick up for myself when someone gives me the middle finger, someone says go F myself, and all these other things. You got to figure out how to make it funny and quick-witted to make this change around for you. And it was a great learning tool for me. 100%.
Joey, this is John Casson, and I want to start with an apology that's 22 years overdue, because I was a jerk to you. I was a jerk to you, and let me tell you what the circumstances, and I hope you don't remember it, because then it'll really haunt me. It was 1998 or 99, and you and I think a couple of your colleagues were on tour, and you went to Wild 95.5 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Do you remember that at all?
I remember the station, yes, and I remember, of course, West Palm Beach, because I think my family lives down over in Jupiter, actually.
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, I worked in the newsroom, and I didn't know I knew your name, of course, and you were just kind of kicking off your start. My daughters loved you, and that station always had these young interns, and you looked like a young kid. You still kind of do. And I was in the newsroom and feeling full of myself, and I went to get some coffee, and you were over there, and I didn't know who you were, and I didn't know obviously that you guys were on tour with them. You were going into the studio to talk, and I'm used to seeing interns early in the morning, and just being nice, I went to introduce myself. I said, "Hi, I'm John Casson," and you turned to me and you said, "I'm Joey," and I said, "Oh," and then you said, "From NSYNC," and I thought you were an intern who was just punking me a little bit, and I kind of turned around and I said, "Well, I don't know if you remember," I said, "You may be NSYNC today, but your career's going down the drain tomorrow," and I walked away.
I wish I did remember that. I don't.
I went back to the newsroom, and my news director said, we sat down, and he says, "What did Joey say?" I said, you know our intern? And he said, "Intern?" He says, "No, that's NSYNC." And I said, "Oh my God." And I had to do my newscast. And when I got done, I got up to apologize, and you guys had already bolted.
I wish I would have remembered, because I would have busted your chops. But no, I don't remember that. And you were correct. It went down miserably.
You got as far as
it sunk. I haven't worked again. I'm working at Chuck E. Cheese now. Times are tough. Times are tough.
So while you're at home, do you live in that lifestyle of no music, no content in front of you? Because how do you remain you when everything about you has always been on display?
You find the right combination, I think. And for me, and I know somebody's always like, "Oh, so Justin's so popular, he's been this, he's like the new kind of king of pop thing and this and that." And I'm like, I'm happy for him. And they're like, "What do you mean, you don't want to be there?" I'm like, me personally, no, because of where I am in my life as a person, as a parent, as a celebrity. I get recognized, but I don't get it to the nth degree where someone's up my butt 24/7. There are not paparazzi standing out of my house. I don't live in California. That's the other thing. I used to, like 3 years. I don't even live in California anymore. So I don't get that anymore. And I'm able to roam around and be freely as much as I can. Yes, do people recognize me? But not to the mass hysteria that it used to back in the day with NSYNC. And I think for me, that is the best combination. I love it. I remember one time Justin came to the Kentucky Derby, and I go every year. He went 1 year where he got bombarded by people. And I was like, dude, bro, I feel bad for you. I said, I honestly do. Because you can't even enjoy yourself and hang out. And I can't even stand next to you and have a conversation. And I remember how it was back in the day for us, though. It was the same way. But I'm glad I'm not in that position anymore, because I want to be able to wipe my own butt without people knowing that I'm doing it. That's it. If I pick my nose, I want to flick the booger and not have somebody take a picture of it.
See, you need your own late night show is what you need to. You need to go from common knowledge to your own late night show. Well, I mean, because you've got that kind of an attitude about you, and that's what's so fun about you.
Yeah, because, I mean, again, even though people think that I'm on this pedestal of this celebrity, I got the same crap like everybody else. Yes, is it certain, maybe a little bit heightened or maybe a little bit different? I might live a different lifestyle, which I don't even try to anyway. Back in the day, I had this monstrosity house that I was like, why the hell do I have this when I don't even go in half the rooms? What is the reason I'm doing this? I'm like, and again, as you get older, you start to realize that is not important. I need a 4-bedroom house, something that's maybe 3,000 square feet, maybe could even be smaller, because I just need a roof over my kids' heads. What I want to do is go rent the mansion out somewhere in another country so I can enjoy myself on a vacation, not own that son of a gun. I don't want to own it because I don't want the bills, because I know what it's like to have those bills. It sucks. So I want to just kind of coast, have fun, enjoy my life, and be able to pick up and go wherever the hell I want to go.
I love it, man. Please come back to the show anytime in the future, Joey. The door is always going to be open for you. All right, man. You be brilliant today, okay? You bet.
No worries, man. And next time, seriously, don't be saying things about your intern.
That's right.
You never know.
That's right. That's right. We are unplugged and totally uncut with John Hanna.
I'm good, Arroe. I'm good, actually. Yeah, although, like Michael, I was out in the garden yesterday and I picked up a bag of something, and tweaked my back the way you do when you get to a certain age. So if you hear a sudden yelp, it's just that little kind of tweak of muscular pain. But other than that, I'm good.
It's moments like that I sit there and I wonder, okay, what is Mother Earth really up to? I mean, it's not that we're invading because we're taking the fruit from the earth, but why? It seems like more people always get injured in the garden.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's like as you get older, you don't warm up for it. I mean, I was moving a full bag of, compost. I should have warmed up. I had my coffee. I put it down. I thought I'd move it. I thought I was younger, stronger, fitter than I really am. And then, sometimes you've just got to get Mother Nature just reminds you to take it easy a little bit.
What's so funny about that story is the fact that because of these COVID days, I took on an essential job, and that is I work at a grocery store of all places. But there are training videos on how to lift things and how not to turn at a grocery store. It's like, you got to be kidding me! I never took this stuff seriously.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, all those injuries that can happen just lifting up a big bag of toilet paper.
Well, I got to tell you what, I congratulate you on this TV show, Transplant, on NBC. There is something about this show that is telling me legendary. Do you feel it on your side of the lens?
Well, certainly when I first read the show and when we were filming it, I felt like it was a very pertinent, it was a great story to be telling. I wasn't seeing anyone else telling that kind of story. Especially not in a mainstream media way, so to be wrapped in something that we all find so familiar. I almost felt, there was a good possibility that it might connect with people, but you never know. I mean, that's why everything that you can imagine can at some point get made. But yeah, I'm really pleased that it's been a success in Canada, and it's finding some traction in the US, and people are watching it and enjoying a refugee story in a mainstream format. It's great.
Because I'll tell you, it's so relatable in the way that if you go into a doctor's office versus even the hospital, there is so much different culture taking place. And I've often wondered, how is everybody working together? So when I watch Transplant, it's teaching me as a regular person that there has to be teamwork. There has to be connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also people have to be up to the job, and that I think that's always been a case of regardless of where you come from, if you have the qualifications, you can do it. And obviously, I think a lot of countries are very, keen on having or require well-trained staff at every level. And the next couple of episodes that you see where my character Jed gets a little bit heavy on Mags is partly making sure she's up to being on that front line of saving lives. And I think we're all very conscious at this time of what those guys and girls and and what everybody is facing in that environment a little bit at the moment.
See, and I love the character Dr. Jed in the way that, to me, that's leadership. That's taking on a role inside. I mean, because a hospital is a business, and it's got to be run like a business, and you've got to have that kind of leadership. Now, you playing Dr. Jed, have you learned anything through those scripts that you've activated in your own personal life?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think he's tough with a soft heart. I'm just soft all over, so... No, I don't have that kind of, thankfully, I don't have that kind of responsibility. I think, like a lot of people talk about actors and show business with the egos that are involved. If I've seen anything in my connection to consultants and doctors and, where they are in the pecking order, is the ego is alive and well in the medical profession.
Boy, that's true, because I know a lot of nurses, and boy, I'll tell you what, they talk about those doctors with their egos and things like that. And I mean, will you guys touch on such a subject? Because I mean, there are a lot of nurses that probably watch Transplant on NBC going, that's the way it is. And okay, how are they going to work through this storm?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, we've got nurses working with us and consultants, doctors consulting on the show, but in the crash rooms, apart from the main actors and actresses, the nurses there are real nurses who, when they're not working with us, are doing shifts at the local hospital. That's their day job, is saving lives, and then their part-time job is making us look good. So yeah, I mean, if there's anything there that comes across as a little phony or flaky, there's various filter levels at which that's been caught.
One of the new episodes, you guys deal with infection, and it was because the doctor was very much aware of everything about that patient, and it really opened up my eyes in the way that, it made me feel comfortable knowing that doctors look beyond reasons why you might be sitting there in that office.
Yeah, indeed. I had a diagnosis made on me by my ophthalmic optician. I don't know, I'm not quite sure what you call them in the States. Is that an optometrist or... Oh, yes, an optometrist. And we call them ophthalmic opticians. And I was going for my prescription reading for every couple of years. And she noticed something with my eyes, which was about a totally unrelated condition, which I managed to get sorted very quickly. So we don't realize how much. It's not only the period of time that they go through their education in order to become a nurse or a doctor, but it's the continued update of new procedures, which is where Bash has to deal with, having already trained as a doctor. He has to train as a doctor for Canada, which has different protocols, different, presumably, medicine, different possibilities. But at the same time, he brings his battlefield experience very much to what a lot of people who work in emergency medicine would term a battle.
Well, I've always wondered how you guys deal with the big words, because I'm a voiceover actor. I do a lot of medical reads and things like that. I have to sit with a voice coach to tell me how I'm supposed to say a word and how to make sure that I pronounce it properly. Do you have to go through the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. There's, as I say, we have no shortage of professionals on stage with us. The doctors are much more helpful in terms of pronunciation. But it's quite interesting because I was talking to my sister about this, who's also a head nurse, and she says that different doctors will pronounce it any way they like. If they want to pronounce it this way, they'll pronounce it that way. Why? Because they're a doctor. So on the one hand, yeah, you have a huge responsibility to say it as if you know what you're talking about, but at the same time, it may well be that you want to chew it up and spit it out sideways just because that's what your character would do.
Now, with your connections to Marvel, wouldn't you say that the TV show Transplant on NBC is also dealing with superheroes? Because the doctors on that show are going above and beyond as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think with everything that's been going on in the world this year, medically speaking, and we've all become very conscious of what the medical professionals and care workers, essential workers are, but especially the medical professionals are going through and dealing with. And having to deal with, as I say, in a battle sense, people die in hospitals as well, and they have to go home and kiss their kids and speak to their partner and get up the next day and come and do it again. And I think, it's put certainly put actors to shame, not to shame, but it certainly made us aware that while we may be front and centre of whether it's Marvel or whether it's the hospital drama, there's real heroes at the moment who are doing really heroic work and saving lives, and I believe a lot of, including the set, I'm sure it's been the same all over the world. I know I've read stories about it here in the UK also, where hospital sets, which are meant for ongoing drama, have donated equipment that they have to the profession. They have PPE equipment that they've donated and various machines and things. So yeah, we're very conscious of who's anchoring us at the moment, who's keeping us going.
Mike was talking about how you're on Zoom right now. I'm amazed at how, the medical world has changed during this pandemic, where doctors are seeing their patients on things like Zoom. What is that like for you then? Do you take that into a character into Dr. Jed in Transplant on NBC?
Well, it'll be interesting, actually. We were talking about this recently in a production meeting, where our storyline is actually picking up almost immediately after where we finish on the first season. So consequently, we're actually still in a pre-lockdown world. So we won't necessarily be dealing with that too much. I myself, however, had to speak to my doctor and over this period and do it online, doing it on a Zoom call. And again, I was talking to my sister about it, who was saying that that's how they used to do it in the old days. Before you had a right to go in and see your GP, certainly in the UK. I know it works differently in the US. But certainly here, everyone took it for granted that you could go in and see your GP whenever you needed to. And again, maybe that's giving people pause for figuring out if they're really ill. But at the same time, people are scared to go into hospitals sometimes for treatment for other conditions, and obviously that's not good either. So I was just hearing on the news today that there's a vaccine which they're feeling very positive about, and this has come ahead of schedule. So it felt like there was a lot of chat on the radio about things feeling more optimistic for the future.
That was Pfizer that made that announcement today, which generates a lot of positive energy. Now, with you being Dr. Jed, how many people in the everyday world see you on the street going, "Doctor, I've got an issue. Can you please help me?" Because you play it so well, like you are a real doctor.
No, I don't really get that here. It hasn't aired here yet, so I'm still kind of under the radar for that one. But I have played the doctor a couple of times in the past, and when my children were being born and they went in for a cesarean, and I was allowed into the operating theatre, I was given scrubs, and the nurse asked me, jokingly, how I looked in scrubs, which I said I looked rather dashing, I thought myself.
You were talking about how Transplant actually started on Canadian television. I grew up in Montana, and that's all we watched was Canadian television. They take chances up there, don't they?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I always said it's no surprise that it was a Canadian network that has kind of gone with something which has always been seen as a bit left field, by having a refugee story, but doing it in a mainstream environment. We're not doing it in the UK. I haven't really seen it in the US. I mean, I imagine there are like films or indie films that are dealing with trying to tell those stories, but to have a refugee and be the front and center of the story and the hero in the story, I think is a great thing, especially after the last few years of the negativity around immigration. I mean, both our countries wouldn't be where they are without immigration. So, I think we have to get back to having a sensible, calm discussion about what we do about it and how we deal with it.
You talk about that it is a refugee story and stuff like that, but each time that I have watched Transplant, the one thing that I've always felt is that in these trying times here in America, there are 20 million people that are unemployed, and the jobs that they're getting are things they've never done before. There's a lot of us, dude, that feel like we are transplants because we're in jobs and positions we know nothing about, but we have to learn to work together.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very much like, the world is not somewhere that's going to be standing still for very long, the way that technology has impacted on so many things. And we are going to have to become more adaptable. We are going to have to cast our net wider, like you were saying, you do voiceover work as well. And, I don't think there's many people can survive, for instance, as only an actor. I mean, we all know about Brad Pitt, and and same with sports players. But there's a whole substructure below that where it's very, very difficult to make a living in the arts, and especially at the moment, for young actors coming out, for young musicians starting off in their career, or even for those who may have chosen to have a more theatrical-based career. These are very, very challenging times. And not least of which in the challenges is financial. We tend to think of actors, or artists as, living on daffodils, just writing songs and quoting Shakespeare. But, we all have to pay the rent and put food on the table. And that's a real thing at the moment for people.
How has it changed you as an actor in the way that the set is different? I mean, even when I go to a movie premiere, I have to sign a waiver now. And it's, what they're doing to protect themselves is also protecting us as well. Is it that much different on the sets for you today?
I think there'll be very heavy protocols on the safety. But things are changing all the time, with other things that have happened, life is constantly changing, whether it's simply because of economics and therefore, as someone who's been in the business for 30 odd years, I've noticed how it's changed. Things have become faster. There's been less cooperation around the creative direction you're going in. That again happens at the top level where people are on the show or the film prior to it actually going, and they're having those discussions. We talk to the writers and things, although next time they won't actually be in the building. In fact, they won't actually be in the city. They'll be based in Montreal. So, but those conversations are very easy to have. Everybody's got a phone; you can pick it up, have that conversation. So we'll just have to figure it out. Look at. You sometimes wonder how they managed to make films before they had mobile phones.
Yeah, because that's that old story that people don't. The real story in Hollywood is we don't know how these movies even get to to hit the screen because it takes so much of a working environment to make it all come together as one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a miracle. It's a great positive metaphor for humanity working together. And funnily enough, wherever I've gone in the world and work, been fortunate to travel the world and work in different countries, and the people who hold the mic and the people who do the makeup and the people that push the dolly, they all kind of look sort of the same. They've all got a kind of very similar vibe. And wherever you go, you can feel very much at home in a family that you recognize.
The show we're talking about is Transplant on NBC. What is it about medical shows that really attracts the faithful followers? I mean, these guys are faithful.
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with life and death all the time in a very real way, and you put that pressure on the characters that are dealing with it. We love cop shows. They deal with life and death also. But I think, with a medical drama, you're there in the room constantly, and then you're walking out the room and you're meeting the people. And we see a kind of we see the contradictions within the characters also, which is very difficult in dramas, to show someone being heroic one minute and being very fallible the next minute. And I think being a doctor allows us to do that. Doctors, nurses, and the medical profession generally allows us to have those insights into characters that we might not necessarily accept in other genres. And we all like to watch something when there is a heightened element of drama there, and it doesn't get any more heightened in life or day.
Well, congratulations on Transplant on NBC. You got to come back to the show anytime in the future, John. The door is always going to be open for you.
I hope so. Yeah, I had a great time doing it. So we'll see where this goes.
You bet. You be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Thanks, Arroe. Yeah, it's been great talking to you.